All right, today is ray guns. I'm going to draw one here freestyle, freehand for you, and show you how much fun you can have creating little electronic mechanical gadgets for fun, or just creating model types for your comic books or drawings or whatever you like. I like to create any kind of little technology piece of equipment with shapes first. This one I started with a bit of an egg shape, and then I decided it would have a little satellite dish type focusing thing and a rail to launch its ray down and set hoof to it. So when I'm making something like this, I like to think about it from the inside out. I try to think, what is the thing on the outside going to do on the inside, or how does it reflect what's going on the inside? So I created this little glass bubble on the back. There's going to be a glass bubble on the top where there's some sort of energy inside, and there's a little ring to hold it on. Another thing I think about when I'm creating any sort of weaponry type stuff or military things is that there's nothing really superfluous in military gear. Everything it has a purpose, and everything in it is made to fill that purpose. So with this one, I started with kind of an egg shape, added the little satellite dish, put a handle on, put some screws on there. Everything is going to be attached somehow. This one has little screws, and create my little glass bubbles, and then I'm going back over it with a thicker pen to kind of clean those lines up. You can do the underlying stuff with pencil. I just find it doesn't really show very well on here, so I use a thin micron pen to do that. And then creating the little bowl here, and then it's got this ray launch thing, and I made these little rings around it that I guess are supposed to focus the power a little bit or something, and then a little Tesla coil type ball at the end to launch it all out there. When you're doing stuff with finer work, I recommend using a ruler or a straight edge for a lot of this stuff. Sometimes there's art kits you can buy as well for creating circles and arcs and screw bolts and those kind of things. I'm doing it all freehand here, and you can too if you're just having fun with it. Put a little lazarette holder here so people can tie it onto their belt. And here we have a little indicator. I wanted to have some sort of way for the person shooting this ray gun to know how many shots they have left, or what the heating dispelling is going on inside of it. I kind of create a whole little story behind them in my head when I'm drawing it. Most of the time it isn't thought about before, it just sort of comes together as I'm going along. You can sort of plan it out and then create it that way too. I like to keep my ray guns and stuff like that pretty sparse. Like I said, there's not a lot of extra moving parts on things that people use for weapons. Some people get really fancy with that. Let your imagination go wherever it will, and have as much fun as you can when you're drawing this stuff. Here I am, I'm just cleaning up the lines a little bit, getting everything in its shape, and figuring out if I need to add anything else, if everything sort of works together. I like, there's a little thing I use here where it attaches to the satellite dish. There's a stepping down. That's kind of a cool technique for moving from one size to another size space on your mechanical drawings. And it's something that you'll see in sort of robot arms and futuristic stuff a lot. There's sort of a stepping down and a stepping up of one metal sort of sliding inside of another. So here we go. We kind of have it here. We've got a couple of screws on the handle. We're going to go ahead and name this thing. I think I call it Blaster, and then put a little serial number and add a little lightning bolt for it. Somebody could put their own little name on it. You can call yours whatever you want, or you don't have to put a name on it. A lot of times when you're doing design work, you won't write on it actually, you'll write around the side. I just put it on there for fun. And this is going in with the light color, so this is going to be a metallic device, also mixed with wood. It's a little bit of steampunky kind of look. So I'm putting shadow around the side, creating a highlight along the edge, keep an idea of where your light source is coming from. And then I just go in and I consecutively add layers of darker gray just to sort of show that shape. And this one has got sort of a round, like I said before, sort of an egg shape. And so I'm kind of creating a sense of roundness using these consecutively darker grays. And when you're going through and doing this, you don't always have to have the light source from one side. Sometimes you can move it around in your mind, or one technique I've seen you use in the past is creating a circle, drawing a circle on the page and then using that as your light source and drawing lines down from it. I don't really do that. I just sort of picture it in my head and then think about what it would look like with the light coming from different angles. This is creating a wood panel handle. So what I do is I start with one of my lightest colors I'm going to incorporate on it. It's also the same color I'm going to use on the leather. And then I sort of go over it with varying darkening pigments, going a little darker here, a little darker there. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring in the actual brown tones, which I hadn't done before. I kind of left those underlying tones. And I find that by layering the tones like this, you really get a chance to build depth and texture in something. I'm going to go ahead and, here you'll see in just a second, add a darkening gray over some of the spots there too. And then I go in and use a pen to create a wood grain that's coming up. So here we made green and then red. That's kind of showing whether it's overheating or where it is in its firing scale. And then this is how many shots there are left. We got yellow and red and green, and you can have all kinds of fun with those. This is using a light blue to sort of give it that metallic tone, and then I'm putting in the dark spots on these little glass bubbles on the front and back, and keeping that color uniform as we go along, and coming back in with a little purple. I find that when you're using blues and purples, they kind of go together a lot of times. There's a blending of those two that makes it really nice. So if you want to make something darker that's blue, look to a bit of a purple shade rather than just a darker blue or darker purple on purple. So give it a little red trigger here. And then this is just taking a really fine micron pen and going in and creating some actual hatching shading. This is a technique that I really like to add on sort of comic booky art. It's a fun way to add a texture on top of the color texture. So this is going in, creating wood grain, and with wood grain what I like to do is find the knot and then create a grain around that knot. You can kind of see there's a knot in the wood, and then I kind of go around it. And then I take a little bit darker brown and add in some of those dark spots that happen in wood. If there's ever something you want to draw, I always recommend looking it up. Look up pictures on Google, look up pictures on in books or magazines. I used to sit in front of National Geographic magazines and draw stuff all the time. Find the wood grain that you like if you want to draw wood grain, and then work on drawing it. This stuff is all done just thinking of it up and creating it, but practicing drawing those kind of things is a fantastic way to build sort of a collage in your head and then create the stuff in real life. Here's adding some of those darker shades. This is a very dark tone on the marker. It's probably about a 70 or 80%. And this is just creating those harsh shadows that are thrown by direct light. And we're pretty close here. I think that's it. This is a freestyle ray gun, and it was a lot of fun to draw, and I recommend everybody take your time, have fun, and draw as much as you possibly can. Thanks for tuning in.